Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, has Darvin Ham set the starting five for the Lakers? It kind of seems like he has. We'll explain next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where your podcasts, where you get them from. I got something in my eye. You can always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 21,000 subscribers to the channel, all of whom, Andy, I think are getting really excited for the season, which is almost here. The Lakers have played 5 of an absurd 6 preseason games, 2 of them over the weekend. They got the 6th one coming up on Thursday before the season opener in Denver the following week. Lots to cover this week on the show, including reaction to those games, what Anthony Davis is looking like, injury updates, including Jared VanderBilt, which impacts the starting 5 and questions about that. But let's begin, Andy, with a little bit of reaction to the 2 games we saw this weekend. Both losses for the Lakers. They lost on Saturday to the Warriors at the Crypt, and on Friday to the Warriors at the Crypt, and on Sunday to the Bucks. I guess they just can't win at home. No home court advantage. What'd you think? What stuck out?
That in the quarters, the halves, when it's featuring guys that either are rotation locks or the strongest possibilities to end up part of the rotation, the Lakers have looked really good.
Yeah.
Like they've consistently looked very good, very synergized. You know, things can look a little bit more raggedy, like if you're playing without, say, LeBron, who is still at this stage going to be the guy most responsible for organizing the offense, still the guy that defenses just key on, right, constantly devote a lot of their attention towards.
Sunday, just for reference, Sunday night, the Lakers played without LeBron, Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and Jared VanderBilt. So they're down 1, 2, 3 ball handlers in that group. 4 ball handlers: Reeves, James, Vincent, and Hood-Schifino, which explains why that last group in particular looked pretty raggedy. Like they needed a little help.
Right. But in the moments where they've had guys that figure to be a big part of the rotation moving forward, I think the team has looked great. In particular, what I've found really promising, the offense, which wasn't just more of a problem than the defense last season. It's frankly been a bigger problem during the entire LeBron AD era, despite having LeBron and AD in that era.
Yeah.
And this is this and there are a bunch of different reasons for that. We don't need to rehash them all, but that they've come out of the gate this strong, but also this comfortably offensively, and with so many guys who look like they are really good fits with each other. I just think that gives me a lot of optimism about what lies ahead.
Yeah, I want to get into the offense for sure, because the shooting, again, the percentages get a little goofy by the end of the games. They can be misleading in either direction, but they shot 44% from 3 against the Warriors on Friday, and while that dropped to 26% against the Bucks, to some degree that falls off based on who's shooting off the bench later in the games. In the first quarter, for example, against the Bucks, the Lakers got off to a really nice start offensively. In part, AD steps out, hits a 3, and Christian Wood hits a 3. So like the shooting has been real.
Well, to put this in perspective a little further, Brian, really
Sure.
quick, Friday against Golden State, among the 9 players that played that night that you figure either are locks to be in the rotation or are in pretty serious competition for a regular rotation spot, the Lakers shot 13 of 23 from behind the arc.
Yeah.
And overall offensively, 58%.
That's not sustainable, but it's the shot quality that really sticks out. And, I think, I want to get into other guys, and we're going to talk about Taurean Prince, who has started on Friday, started on Sunday, will start on Thursday for the final preseason game.
Started the game before that as well.
Right. In part because Jared VanderBosch is not playing and he's injured, and we'll get to that in a second. His availability for the opening night against Denver is, I guess, now kind of in question. Darvin said, "We'll see," when he was asked about that after the game on Sunday. But, it really starts with Anthony Davis, because LeBron has missed now two of the, he will play in the sixth game, which will give him three in this preseason. AD's been there for more of that, and he has looked phenomenal. On Friday, the shooting percentage was below 50%. He was 3 of 8 from the floor, but he shot 7 free throws. On Sunday, he was 5 of 8 from the floor and got to the line 5 times, 16 points in 19 minutes. He had 7 rebounds on Sunday, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Darvin Ham called him, he filled up the box score with all the other stuff on Friday as well. Darvin has called him the heart and soul of the team. He called him that on Sunday. I thought that was a very strong statement in praising all of his good work in the preseason. But to call him that and call him a catalyst and all these other things, it's really clear the Lakers are trying to tilt this thing where it's a LeBron team. I get it. But putting Anthony Davis at the core of what they're doing, because Friday night, they legitimately ran LeBron away from the ball a lot. He was cutting and moving and all that kind of stuff, which must be terrifying for a defense. And if they're doing that, like, Anthony Davis really does become the focal point of what they're doing offensively.
Well, LeBron said that AD was the face of the organization right now. So he is the face, he is the heart, he is the soul. He's becoming the everything of the team. And this is something that the organization has needed from Anthony Davis for a while. It has needed to feel like he is the most important player on the court. Like, LeBron's voice is going to matter more than Anthony Davis, because, with all due respect to AD, top 75 player, future Hall of Famer, he ain't LeBron, because there's only 1 or 2 players in the history of the game who are LeBron. LeBron is arguably the best leader in the NBA. He's been one of the best leaders over the past few decades. So that voice is, LeBron has been there, done that, as any player in the league other than maybe Steph. So there's nobody whose voice is going to carry more gravitas, but AD needs to be on the court the most consequential player on this team, period. If this is going to work, if they're going to pick up from a Western Conference Finals appearance and build on that to the finals, build on that to trying to win the championship, it's got to be AD. That cannot be emphasized enough. It can't be drilled into AD's head enough. And I think he's somebody that needs to hear that stuff, I think, frequently. I think it's good for AD to hear that.
I agree. And not just because it gives of the confidence, but also a reminder of the responsibility. And, you go back, the shooting is really becoming interesting, because he made 1 of 2 threes on Friday. He made 1 of 2 threes on Sunday. Again, he played short minutes in both of these games. So, the volume, you wouldn't expect him to take 5 3-pointers and a half. And he's basically just playing halves of these games.
But just a game, according to Darvin.
It is. He I think he hit a 20-footer on Sunday. It's just like the mid-range, the confidence in just the jump shot, whether it's 17, 15, 19, 23, whatever it might be. That, I think we talked about earlier last week, like that's what's behind Darvin saying, yeah, take 6 threes. Let's get out there and do it. We want you taking it. Like, it's not the 3-pointer. It's the confidence in taking the open shot when you have it, regardless of where it is, and open up and believe in every aspect of your game. Darvin, I think Andy is, in addition to all the other guys we want to get into, I think he has hinted at pretty firmly at who will be the regular season starting five. So we'll get into more reaction for the weekend and that starters question next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. And years ago, some friends of mine and I, we went to go see LL Cool J in Los Angeles at the now defunct House of Blues. Really last minute idea. We didn't know how we'd get tickets, so we tried buying them from a scalper. Turns out they were fake.
Yes.
And it was only
EL cool with a K, JAY.
Yeah, we should have known. And we, through a totally bit of random, unrepeatable luck, we managed to get into the show. But I vowed after that experience, never again. Because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. And that's why I love Game Time. The fast, easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows in theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun. They offer images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. And the Game Time guarantee means you get the best price. Always, if you find tickets in the best section, a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On NBA, $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Real quick, before we get to the starting five, I wanted to add something.
There's still a couple other things that popped out over the weekend. So, yeah.
Sure. I just wanted to add to your point about AD and the idea of Darvin encouraging these jump shots, encouraging mid-range, behind the arc, whatever. I think part of that also comes from the idea that not only do you want AD taking those shots, they're likely going to be good ones because AD doesn't take bad shots. If anything,
really you're right.
If anything, there are times where you'd maybe look for him to force a few shots just because you're Anthony Effin Davis and you have the license to do that if you want to, because superstars get, that.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
So I think that's part of it. It's just like, dude, we've talked about this. AD is a lot like Pau, in that they're both rule followers when it comes to the offense, and that's great. But every now and then you need your superstars to say, you know what, I'm going to put up that shot because I want to, and maybe it's really contested. Maybe it's not the most ideal shot, but I've earned the right to do it. And AD is not going to abuse it. So I think that's why you encourage stuff.
And, the shot quality, as we've sort of talked about, the overall shot quality from what the Lakers are getting this preseason has been so good that almost nobody is taking bad shots. Like, there haven't been.
Rui's taken a few. Rui's forced a few.
But you understand what I'm getting at.
Yes, I do. I think he's looking to be super aggressive, and I think they want him to be super aggressive.
Right. And but most of his shots, I don't mean like every shot has to be wide open. The guys are allowed to put up, take the ball aggressively to the basket or whatever. But like, there's been very little WTF.
That is true. That is true.
What these guys are doing. And, you force a shot, you're trying something. It is the preseason. You do want to, maybe, take a shot out that you've been working on and see what it looks like against a defense that doesn't belong to your own team. But just the overall shot quality has been there. 108-97, the final score against the Bucks over the week on Sunday. But the Lakers led after the first quarter, 29-28. They were -4 in the second quarter. It was basically a tie game at halftime. And then the core rotation guys essentially sat down. You look at D'Lo, had another strong game. I thought he played pretty well on Sunday. I thought he played well on.
Played terrific on Friday.
On Friday, Austin Reeves looked phenomenal on Friday. Like, just the whole thing with the starters and the core bench players against the Warriors was strong. Taurean Prince, Andy, was 4 of 5 from 3-point range, 5 of 6 overall on Friday.
He made 3 threes almost in succession. Mm-hmm. It was almost back to back to back. And then he had another basket like 20 seconds after that one. This is all in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, that performance kind of made the 2 for 5 he went from 3 on Sunday kind of look, pedestrian and kind of crappy by comparison. Like you're only shooting 40% from 3. Like, what's up with that?
That's what he promised. No more, no less.
No, I think I don't know if he meant that promise in the sense that he couldn't shoot higher. I didn't think he meant he was going to shoot exactly 40%.
Maybe he's a literalist.
Yeah, maybe. What does he call it? That's his occupation.
Yes, it's his occupation. Man's got to have a code.
So Darvin was asked if this was the starting 5 and kind of laughed it off with a little wink, almost basically like, we'll see. But yes, seems to be the answer. The offense has looked so good. This is before you start to factor in the fact that Vanderbilt hasn't been able to play, won't be able to play in the preseason finale, may not be able to play in the regular season finale. That has an influence on this, obviously. But even without that, Prince has played so well and fit in so well with that starting group. And it's not like it doesn't make sense to put him in that starting lineup. He's one of the guys we've talked about as a really good fit potentially there. He's going to be the guy who starts on opening night, right?
It feels that way. I mean, some of this, as you mentioned, is Vanderbilt's absence, because I think Jared was in legitimate consideration for this. And there had been some reporting that Vanderbilt was starting to gain some steam as that 5th, TBD starter.
Right.
Both
and
of
he
us
hit a couple. He hit the corner threes early in the preseason.
And we know what he can do with that, defensive versatility and utility, particularly when it comes to guarding perimeter opponents. Guys, point guards, shooting guards. The type of wings that you don't necessarily want to have LeBron, Austin, or D'Lo start on or have as their primary assignment for 30-something minutes.
Yeah.
But that being said, Taurean Prince is a solid defender. I don't think he's exactly the same type of defender in terms of the type of guys that he can defend, but he's not somebody that you worry about having out there because of his defense. And then in the meantime, the shooting has been so good. He's also been putting the ball on the floor a lot. Like he's been very aggressively looking for different shots, even though he's not forcing a thing. Like he's only taking stuff that really is there right in front of him. Like Taurean Prince has not done anything where like, okay, man, that's a little much.
Did you realize how quickly he gets his shot off? Because I didn't, and so again, watched Taurean Prince play, but you don't focus on guys in the same way. He does not need a lot of space to take a clean 3. I didn't realize he was that quick.
Yeah, he's been really good with it. And just his energy is really high too. I mean, like that's a place where he and Vanderbilt are fairly interchangeable. Like they just both play very high energy, really hustle their asses off, really make the most of their minutes. And both of them, I think, have a very similar mindset, even though they're not the same player at all. It's very much just, I will do whatever is asked of me. Darvin talked about how Taurean is not a player you need to coddle at all. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he meant as a shot at anybody else on this team. It was just like, look, he will do whatever is asked. He's a pro.
I think he is a guy in many ways, like if Christian Wood is looking for a template, he's got it in actually both Vanderbilt and Prince. These are first round picks. These are not guys who are, were lightly recruited out of high school and clawed their way into the league like through the back door. And
they're not Gabe Vincent.
Correct. Or, Austin Reeves or Colin Castleton or Patrick Beverly or guys who, these are first rounders. But Prince has been around long enough to know exactly what his role is in the NBA. He's gone through a couple contract negotiations. He just signed for a mid-level. He's not, the small mid-level. He's not somebody who is, gunning for that big contract anymore. And he knows what his value is around the league and how to play a role and how to fill it. And Vanderbilt is the same way. When you look at what the Lakers could get out of that 5th starter role, I understand the value of defense. I understand the value of what Vanderbilt does and can do. But if you're getting a lot of the same qualities as you do with Vanderbilt with Prince, and you can overcome some of the rebounding gap and stuff like that, and other guys are going to have to make up for it, so it's not just on AD. LeBron will pick up some of that, and Reeves not a terrible rebounder to size, but all that stuff, everybody can do it. The quality of the offense has been so good. And when you want to take off pressure off of Anthony Davis, when you want to take pressure off of LeBron, especially, it makes a really big difference to have that guy out there who's a low usage, gravity inducing player who really is reliable in shooting from those places.
Yeah, I mean, they're not similar players in terms of their skill sets, but Prince and Vanderbilt are both similar in the way that ultimately I think is the reason Rui should not start. Is Rui is not a low usage player. And if you put him out there as that fifth starter, which I think he's good enough to be on this team. In terms of talent, Rui can do it. In terms of utility, I don't think it's the best use for him. Like Taurean Prince and Jared VanderBilt, both I think have much more utility as that fifth starter and can be slotted into a role that makes sense for either one of them more easily than if you make Rui the fifth starter.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. There's an interesting knock-on effect of this move of moving Prince in the lineup and the Vanderbilt injury and what being potentially out. Let's say he misses a couple games into the regular season. I want to talk about that next. I do want to remind everybody that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, it's the Game Time app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. So yeah, we'll get into that and interesting stuff from D'Lo if we have time for that before the end of the show. All that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by BetterHelp, and it's really easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you to never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself and for yourself. It's hard to balance being there for your significant other, for your children, for your extended family, for work, but then remembering to be there for yourself. And we all spend our time giving, but that can leave you feeling stretched out and stretched thin and burned out. And unfortunately, life does not come with a user manual. And what's not working for you, it's normal. Easy to feel stuck. And I can speak to how much therapy helped me during an extremely difficult period in my life for me and my family. And sitting down, talking with someone was huge. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, it's accessible anywhere, 100% online, no waiting rooms, no traffic. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. And if things aren't working, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. So if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can help get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
So, Andy, one of the things that we noted when we've kind of been breaking down the rotation here is a reason to start Jared VanderBilt as opposed to Taurean Prince is that if you don't start Vanderbilt, it becomes much harder to figure out when he's going to play. Because
quite possibly
Rui's going to get big. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it reduces him to a 2-minute role or that he's a DNP. But Rui is going to get a lot of minutes, and Christian Wood is going to play. And just when you start to put in
Max Christie's going to play, or somebody at that 2-guard slot,
right.
And Gabe Vincent's going to be out there.
And Prince is going to play.
Right.
So when you start to kind of figure out where the minutes are going to come from and how this is going to look and the combinations that make sense in terms of spacing and giving guys the room to do stuff and whatever, it's not obviously impossible for Vanderbilt to get minutes when he comes off the bench, but it's significantly easier to figure out how to do it when he starts.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what I was thinking is, let's say he misses, this heel thing that the Lakers have been monitoring. That last week it was, he'll be ready for opening night. Now we're getting a maybe. We'll see how that goes. If he does miss a little bit of time, the impact on the Lakers rotation if Prince has already kind of locked up that starting spot, might actually be smaller than you would think with somebody who kind of feels important like Vanderbilt. They just gave a big extension to.
Well, it's important to remember the extension doesn't really kick into next year. So,
no, but you
as a reminder to other as a reminder to other people,
it makes him feel like a more important player on the roster.
Absolutely,
what I'm getting at.
Right, but the minute people hear about extensions, they I think sometimes start thinking about the money's worth that you want to get for a player on that new extension money. And it's just, again, important to remember that if you're thinking about it along those terms, Jared Vanderbilt's new money doesn't actually kick in until next season. As far as though the question you're raising about what happens to him if, say, he starts the season unable to play and Taurean Prince locks up that spot and you're just figuring out the different trickle-down ramifications of the roster, to some degree, I think this gets determined by where Jackson Hayes fits in. And
really, that's a good point.
And because Darvin's been playing Hayes, and he's been giving him a very long, extended look. And I think for the most part, Hayes has actually played pretty well.
I agree.
He's shown his utility. He's shown there are at least one or two times per game where you see Jackson Hayes go and you go, all right, I get why you envision something for him. Like I get why the Pelicans took him as a lottery pick. I get why the Lakers would want to take a flyer on him. I get why, coaches in New Orleans kept trying to find ways to make Jackson Hayes a thing.
Yep.
But like the idea of, okay, do you get, if you're thinking about some deep bench units that are mostly reserves without some of the starters in there, can Rui, Hayes, and Wood play together? Like, do you get enough spacing offensively? Do you get enough integrity defensively with those three there? Because if, say, those three as a foundation can play together for at least some amount of time, that truly starts squeezing Vanderbilt's opportunities, unless theoretically Vincent, Rui, and Wood gives you so much spacing, and say it turns out Max Christie isn't ready, or they just feel like he's not capable of doing like a 12 to 15 minute role, and there's enough spacing, you could theoretically play Jared Vanderbilt essentially as a defensive wing stopper, in the second unit. Like there's a possibility there if there's enough space there. I don't think the odds of that are high, in part because I think Christie's going to be in the rotation, like as far as that scenario goes. But
when making that calculation about how hard it could be to get Vanderbilt in there, was doing that with the assumption that Hayes wasn't going to play very much. And so if you start to add Hayes to this, by the way, a phenomenal problem for the Lakers to have, is that makes it even harder.
Yeah.
And so again, great problem for Darvin and the Lakers, but you're right. Of all the, I've been pleased, and we'll get to D'Lo in the next show. He said D'Lo had a great comp, like for people who are wondering whether or not, he's looking at the right stuff and the kind of approaching this season with a good headspace and with a good model. The answer, based on some of the responses from Sunday, is yes. So we'll probably get to that tomorrow. The guy that I've been most surprised by in terms of not having particularly high expectations and is Hayes. Because everybody else is kind of, it's come together in ways that I've been like, wow, this is really great. But the individual performances, Hachimura is shooting a little better than I, kind of thought, like based on his regular season track record and stuff like that. But like, it's Hayes. Like that's the guy I look at and say, it's not perfect, it's not flawless, but like, I am no longer that skeptical. I'm less skeptical about the idea that they could get 12 minutes a night out of Hayes, even when Anthony Davis and Christian Wood are both available. And then when Wood or when Davis misses games, like, okay, I can see what Hayes can do for them. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think
sometimes the structure and the change of venue and the simplification of a role can help.
Well, I mean, look at Rui. mean,
Good point.
Rui spent 3.5 seasons in Washington. Whether you think the problem was the rudderlessness of the Wizards since, I don't know, blank, or
Right.
or Rui being overdrafted, Rui not having the right mindset, the personal issues that were going on for Rui, like all of it to some degree, like whatever, he fits very well here. And the Lakers, with I think much more structure and somebody like LeBron to be your mentor and Phil Handy to help in certain ways guide that mentorship, and Darvin, who is a really good players coach, like that can make a difference. I imagine what they've seen from Rui gives them confidence, in taking that flyer on Hayes or taking that flyer on Cam Reddish, like the idea of we can unlock things.
All right, so we'll stick with kind of figuring out these lineup things and who has played themselves into the rotation, who has not. Max Christie, I think, certainly has done some, particularly in those moments when he's being asked to do what he'll do in real minutes during the regular season. Agree with you, Andy, is I think shown that he's going to be somewhere in the rotation at the beginning of the season, at the very least. Darvin's going to have trouble not going 11 deep, which is hard to do in the NBA. Like 9 is what I think what most coaches like. 10 is an early season stretch. 11 is damn near impossible, but I love this problem. I so love this problem. We've not been here in so long, Andy. I love this problem. It's the kind of thing that makes me want to play the Game Time app. Mm-hmm. I can download it, create an account, use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off my first purchase. I'm just so excited. I want to play.
And we get credentials. We don't even need the tickets.
Don't even need it. Don't even need the tickets. I just want to get out there and use my Game Time app and go to events and find real LL Cool J tickets and do all that stuff. And just play around on that thing and go to
House of Blues. Now that's a fake ticket.
No,
that is a fake ticket.
If anybody's selling you tickets to the sports arena, don't go to that either. Those are fake. But yeah, I want to play around on that app and just find cool stuff to go to. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with upwards of 21,000 and counting subscribers, all of whom getting ready for this very deep, very solid, very good shooting Lakers team. And we'll see everybody tomorrow.